So, Rabbi, what's the story of Hanukkah?
The story of Chanukah is about a Jewish group living in Israel under the Syrian Greek rulership. And the Syrian Greeks wanted to have the Jews assimilate and join their way of life. Stop having your own way of Jewish identity and connection to God. That was totally forbidden. Follow our way of life. What's your way of life? What's the culture? What happens? Well, beauty is important. Wisdom is important. Philosophy is important. Your own talent is important. That's what you give attention to. This connection to God, doing mitzvahs, that's not important. And they made laws. No Shabbos. No following this day off of the week that you just stop. You're to be different than everyone else and connect to God. But that's nonsense. No circumcision. No more Brit Milah. No Kiddush HaChodesh, blessing the new month. They attacked us in ways that we connect to Hashem. And there were consequences for Jews that followed these traditions. And many Jews were scared and adapted. They were called Hellenists. They joined the Greek culture. There was a group of Jews called the Hashmonaim who didn't give in. They remained strong and under all costs preserved Jewish teachings and values to the fullest. And they were attacked by the Greeks. Antiochus sent his generals with war elephants and things to attack this Jewish army. Who are they to preserve Jewish identity when I want everyone to assimilate? Have them all killed. If that's what they're trying to do. And the Jews gathered with a few thousand Jews. They had bats and sticks. They weren't trained. And miraculously, they won over a very large group of Syrian Greeks. And this war didn't happen once. It happened more than once. Did they have this victory? That's the first miracle of Chanukah. The time that we celebrate our victory and our preserving of our Judaism, that we maintained our religion under the threat of the Syrian Greeks.
So why are we lighting 8 candles?
Good question. So that leads us into the second miracle of Chanukah. See, the Syrian Greeks were out to stop us from having a godly relationship. So they said, study Torah. You could study Torah, but don't study Torah in a way that you're bonding with Hashem. You want to do mitzvahs? Do those mitzvahs that make sense to you. Don't do those mitzvahs that are not rational, that are just doing it because God said so. You don't do anything because God says, do things that you understand and that make you feel good. That's what life's about. But we know as Jews that there's a connection that we have, that we are close to God and we have this deep connection regardless of our understanding. We try to understand everything we could, and that's our obligation. But we have a deeper faith and connection to God that is beyond our understanding, and that they could not take. So, there's a law that in order to light the menorah, the beautiful gold menorah in the Holy Temple, it has to be with pure olive oil. The olive oil was made by someone who's pure. Many kohanim, many of the priests that would enter the temple would first go to mikveh, just in case they touched someone impure or if they were at a funeral. There's different ways that spiritual impurity could come to a person. It's not something that you could see. It's all something spiritual. And the oil was always pressed and prepared by people that were pure, people that went to the mikveh before squeezing these olives. So the Syrian Greeks entered the temple, and they wanted that the Jewish people should be forced to light the olive oil that's contaminated. They touched every oil. They opened the seal. Every olive jug had a seal from the high priest. They broke the seal and touched the oil. Tim'u kol hashmanim shebeheichel. They defiled all the olive oil in the heichel, in the holy temple. And they searched to find every last jug and said, look, you Jews, you'll light the oil, you'll light the contaminated oil, and everything will be fine, it will light beautifully. Forget about these spiritual connections that you're trying to work on. And the first miracle is that we actually found a jug of oil that was pure, that still had its seal. Under the tile of the holy temple, there was one jug remaining there that was untouched. And we used that to light the menorah, but it was only enough to light for one night. And the miracle happened that it lit for 8 nights. So we light our candles 8 nights to remember the miracle of Chanukah, how this one jug of oil lasted for 8 nights. And we sing praises of song to God for taking care of us, not only for the miracle of the 8 nights of Chanukah with the flame burning for 8 nights long, but also for winning over our enemies and preserving our Jewish traditions and religion so that we have Judaism. The miracle is also that we found the jug. That's also a very big miracle. And it's part of the... Okay, scrap that. Please go.
But Rabbi, how does the story of Hanukkah relate to us today?
Good question. So, we don't have Syrian Greeks chasing us. But there are other external forces that sometimes could distract us from living a Jewish life and connecting towards a life of doing mitzvahs and living with connection and positivity and warmth and closeness to Hashem. And sometimes those distractions are from within. We have a good part, the part that wants to always do good, known as the good inclination. And we also have a bad inclination that sometimes distracts us and wants us to feel jealous and wants us to feel egoistic and wants us to distract our focus on the right thing in life. And sometimes we spend many hours and days and months on mundane activities without giving the proper attention to our deeper calling in life and meaning and purpose that we have here. So we idolize different things, like the Greeks idolized their beauty, their talents, their wisdom. So there's different types of Greeks. They're not the same Syrian Greeks that lived in Israel at the time, but they're other forms of Greeks. And they try to defile our oil. What's the oil, Mike?
The light inside of us.
Good. It's that light inside. And they try to defile that light that we have. Stop connecting with that light. Let's contaminate it. Let's mix in that light to have a different passion. Your passion should be to accumulate material things. Your passion should be to gain more honor. Forget about helping. Forget about bringing meaning. Forget about connecting. It's all about your ego. Focus on that. And Chanukah tells us that there's a jug deep down in our little temple. Our body's a temple. It's holy. God created our bodies too. It's holy, not just our soul, our bodies as well. And in our temple there's a jug of oil. And if we only tap into it, we could bring out the greatest blessing. That miracle could shine. We have to do our part to light our flask of oil for one night. Give it that push. Let's bring out our light and perform that mitzvah beyond our comfort zone. It might not be easy to find that jug. We have that jug. We have this burning fire in our soul that wants that connection to God. And we are going to connect through the next mitzvah that we're going to perform. We're going to find that connection. That is Chanukah. Connecting. Bringing out that mitzvah. And then God will do His part. If the miracle has to happen, it will continue going for 8 nights. And more. Much more. But we merit to have the menorah in the Holy Temple lit once again, speedily, with the coming of Mashiach, speedily in our days. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Rabbi.
So welcome, Matt. Thank you.